right, welcome everybody. Welcome to everybody around the world, and welcome to all my subscribers. I have a very important video here today, and I've got my notes here, which I don't always do, but I made notes to help make it quicker and more organized for everybody. Now, this is a very important topic, and I urge all Christians to help share this information. This is my hard work and discovery, so please at least give me credit. You don't have to share the video necessarily, but please share the information, and where appropriate, please give me the credit. I worked hard on this. I've known a lot of this stuff for almost 20 years now, and I've shared it on my channel for years as well, but it's very important to go over again. And what I've done here with these notes is I've done it in a very neat, organized, concise format to make it easier to relate to people, so it shouldn't take too long. But this message is critically important because, the end of days is very, very soon. Even if you don't believe me when I say that 2023 will be the end based on the prophecy of Daniel, most Christians generally feel that the end days are soon. So, without fussing over when in particular they may be, it's very, very important to understand the book of Revelation. But it's a very confusing book. Long story short, there's 20-something chapters, a lot of very major scenes and events taking place with a lot of illustration, describing beasts and plagues and all these disasters. And there's so much of it, and it's not written in a chronological order of events, so it's very confusing. It's like a puzzle. And for near 2,000 years, Christians have made countless theories as how to interpret the book of Revelation and the events, without fussing over who and what nation certain figures are, or what kings and rulers certain figures are, without fussing over the little petty details here. I'm going to show the underlying actual chronological order of the events. So I've deciphered Revelation, and I'll show everybody how I did it. It's very straightforward. It's using logic, and it's quite undeniable. And once you hear all these points, you will agree. Now, the whole point of this is not so I can show everybody the order of events, but it's to show everybody that what you'll see by the end of this is the verses that I'll go through show that all these events take place not just in one day, but they actually take place in 1 hour. So when the end of days arrives, it's going to be that sudden, okay? And all of the major events that we hear about in Revelation will actually take place within a day, but more specifically, actually within an hour. Now that's quite shocking. That means you don't have time to prepare. Even if you did know the year, the month, and the week, you wouldn't know when this is going to hit. And when it hits, everything is going to happen very, very quickly. Now, a lot of Christians might not believe me. They might think, I'm just another guy with a crazy theory. But here we go. This is the logic, everything broken down. I got the verses here and everything, and I'll go through it. The best way to do it is to break it down, like I did here, into trumpets, seals, and vials. Okay, and you number them 1 through 7 like I did, and just logically write down the unique characteristics of each one. So I got all 7 trumpets. I've got the unique characteristics that are mentioned in the verses for each one of the 7, and likewise for the seals and the vials. So out of all the 20-something confusing chapters of Revelation that portray all these different heavenly and earthly scenes, and they're not in order, we can determine, mathematically determine an order based on the unique characteristics of each of these events. So before I get into that, what I didn't do last time I made this video is the following. So for those of you who don't believe that the end days could be around the corner, I'm not going to fuss over the prophecy of Daniel. I believe it points to 2023. I've made so many other videos on it. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to fuss over when the end days are going to be. The purpose of this video is to show that when they do come, it'll be so sudden, and all these big events will be over within a day, actually within an hour. But it's all going to take place in one day. Okay, that's the purpose of this video. Not when it's going to happen, but how and what is going to happen. Okay? So what I did first in preparation for my little video here is I once again looked up all the references to the end day. There's different ways and terminologies used to describe the final day, the end days, the end of times, or whatever. There's all different ones. But at the end of the day, no pun intended, I have, I think, 4 or 5 verses here that I'll read through, and they're very explicit in highlighting that they are talking about the final days. So let's read them. In Matthew 24, verse 13, but he who did endure to the end shall be saved. And this good news of the reign shall be proclaimed, meaning the gospel, shall be proclaimed in all the world for a testimony to all the nations, and then shall the end arrive. Okay? And then he actually mentions in the next verse the abomination of desolation, which is highly relevant to the prophecy of Daniel, which I didn't want to get into. The abomination of desolation was the Dome of the Rock built in 688 AD. 1260 years later, which is the time period Daniel specified, lands you 1948 AD, which is the precise year Israel was reborn. I've talked about this in many excellent videos of mine, so I'm getting back into it again. But in the following verses from Daniel, in chapter 12, we could read from verse 9. He talks about the final 75 years. So it actually goes up to 1335, and that's the end. So he says, and he saith, go, Daniel, for hidden and sealed are the things till the time of the end. Purify themselves, yea, make themselves white, yea, refined are many, and the wicked have done wickedly, and none of the wicked understand, and those acting wisely do understand. And from the time of the turning aside of the perpetual sacrifice, which is at the hands of Babylon in 602, when they desecrated the temple and the sacrifices, and to the giving out of the desolating abomination, which was the Dome of the Rock in 688 AD, are days, which means years, day for a year. Ezekiel 4, that's what God says, a day for a year. So our days 1,290. So between 602 BC and 688 AD, there were 1,290 years exactly. So, oh, the blessedness of him who is waiting earnestly and does come to the days 1,335. And thou go on to the end, then thou dost rest and dost stand in thy lot at the end of days. Okay, so these are specific references to the end days, the final days, whatever you want to call it. Okay, when Jesus in Matthew 24 said, then shall the end arrive, after the gospel has been preached to all the nations in all the world. Daniel 12, where he says that the 1335th year, which actually is 2023, but I'm not here to argue about dates. Okay, it is said to be the end of the days. Now if we go to Matthew chapter 10, in verse 22 it says, and ye shall be hated by all because of my name, but he who has endured to the end, he shall be saved. And similar to Matthew 24, and whenever they may persecute you in the city, flee to the other, for verily I say to you, ye may not have completed the cities of Israel till the Son of Man may come. So that's another condition, a unique verse in the New Testament that actually says, on top of the other two I just read, that you may not have completed the cities of Israel, meaning taking the gospel, till the Son of Man may come. Okay, so the whole world, all the nations, and all the cities of Israel have to hear the gospel before the Son of Man may come. The reason why I'm reading these verses is because any Christian has to admit that these things have already been accomplished. The gospel has been taken all around the world. It's been taken to all the nations. Half the world's population believes in Jesus. Okay, it's even been taken all throughout Israel. Now maybe there's 1 or 2 little cities in Israel that haven't heard the gospel yet, but I highly doubt it. Okay, so we are right at the cusp, at the helm of the end of days, according to the only criteria that have been given. And think about that. And there's one more verse here, which is from the same Matthew 24 I read at first, but just lower down. He says in verse 25, lo, I did tell you beforehand, if therefore they may say to you, lo, in the wilderness, he, Jesus is, ye may not go forth. Lo, in the inner chambers, ye may not believe. For as the lightning does come from the east and does appear unto the west, meaning very quickly, so shall also be the presence of the Son of Man. And wherever the carcass may be, there shall the eagles be gathered together. Eagles are reference in code to either angels or fallen angels. Okay? And then it talks about the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven and everything. So these are the 4 verses that actually specifically mention, like verbatim, the end days. And these are the things that they say. They all actually highlight 2023. I mean, you have Daniel 12, who, going from the desolation of the abomination of desolation, on the Temple Mount in 688. The 1335th year from that is 2023. Okay, that date's further concreted going back in time from 602 BC to 688 AD, being the 1209 years of Daniel said. So Daniel 12, one of the four verses where it's talking about the end days, matches up. We're in that time period. Matthew 24 said the end will only arrive once the gospel has gone to all the nations. That's already happened, so we're right at the door for that. And then Matthew 10, I think it was, said that the Son of Man won't arrive until the gospel has been taken to all the cities of Israel. And we got to be near completion, or have already completed that, so we're right at the door. And then the final one from Matthew actually just says that when he comes, everything happens very quickly. Okay, so and finally, I just want to read this one, Matthew 25, because a lot of Christians glaze over this. It says, and whenever the Son of Man may come in his glory, so it's talking about his arrival, which we know is in the final days, and all the holy messengers with him. That's all I need to read, because it just reiterates what Daniel 7 said, and what Revelation says, that, and elsewhere in the New Testament, where Jesus comes with the hosts of the heavens, with the angels. Okay, so those are the only, really, not four, but three verses that talk about when and what happens with the end days. And we can see right now that we're right at the door. So that's why this message of this video is very, very important, because just like the New Testament verses say it, peace, they will say peace and surety, and then there will be sudden destruction. Okay, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be just like with Sodom. Okay, everybody's going to be making merry and saying that everything is peaceful and secure, and then sudden destruction. It'll be like the days of Noah. A lot of Christians have been preaching there's going to be 3.5 years or 7 years of tribulation, to each their own. I believe we're at the end of the 3.5 years of tribulation, but my point is, people preach that there's going to be all this Antichrist ruling the world and all these different things taking place that'll be like obvious indicators that we're in the end days, and they term this the time of the tribulations. And most Christians think that the churches will be raptured off the earth so that they don't have to endure this. But all of that stuff is actually completely bogus. It's not even biblical. And the beast nation, the beast kingdom, was Islam, right? It already had its time. Its time ended in 1948, according to Daniel's prophecy, right at the end of the 1260-year period. We're just in the final generation, the final 75 years. But anyways, enough about that. Right, so I read those verses to show that we are right at the helm of the end, according to those three criteria that the Bible given in Old and New Testament. So when we look at the book of Revelation, I could read this verse as well before I get into Revelation, to show that it does all take place in an hour. Okay, there's a specific verse, or a bunch of verses in Revelation 18 that prove this, but that'll be at the wrap-up when I go through the trumpet, seals, and vials. So save that for its own place, which is towards the end. But I looked up the term hour in the book of Revelation. It occurs 11 times. A lot of these are in reference to Revelation 18. However, I'm going to read these other ones because it's very important. Check what Jesus said in Revelation 3:3. He says, remember then how thou hast received and heard, and be keeping and reform. If then thou mayest not watch, meaning for my arrival, I will come upon thee as a thief, and thou mayest not know what hour I will come upon thee. So that's one reference to there. That's one reference there to the fact that it could be taking place in just 1 hour. Now check this out. Revelation 3:10, same chapter. 7 verses lower down. It's definitely talking about everything takes place in 1 hour. It says, because thou did keep the word of my endurance, I also will keep thee from the hour of the trial that is about to come upon all the world, to try those dwelling on the earth. Very interesting, right? In Revelation 9:15, a verse that I'll get into later, it actually says, and loosed are the 4 messengers who have been made ready for the hour, and the day and the month and the year, that they may kill the third of men. All of those big Revelation events are taking place in 1 hour. And in Revelation 11:13, and in that hour came the great earthquake. Okay, and that earthquake is talked about many times throughout the trumpet, seals, and vials. Okay, in Revelation 14:7, saying in a great voice, fear ye God and give to him glory, because come did the hour of his judgment. In Revelation 14:15, because come to thee as the hour of reaping. And then we get to all the references in Revelation 18:10, talking about the fall of Babylon. It says, because in 1 hour did come thy judgment. In Revelation 18:16, because in 1 hour so much riches were made waste. In Revelation 18:19, for in 1 hour she was made waste. But it also says in Revelation 18, it's all going to be in one day. So we know it's going to be one day at most, but it's going to be all taking place in 1 hour. So, like I said, Revelation's full of all these complex scenes and events that are taking place, big scary things. But it tells us there are 7 trumpets, 7 seals, and 7 vials. So all you got to logically do is use common sense and logic. Write down 7 trumpets, the 7 seals, and the 7 vials. Write down the unique characteristics from each. And then you'll notice the striking trend and connections that I did when I did this study like 20 years ago. Okay, now check this out. This is not some crazy theory of mine. This is clear as day evidence from the Bible. Okay? Almost all of these trumpet, seals, and vials line up with one another and synchronize. It's quite astounding and describe the same one event. Let me just adjust this real quick. So if we go look at the first trumpet, it says that hail, which is, meteors or whatever, but hail, fire with blood will be falling down from the heavens. 1/3 of the trees will be burned up, and all the green grass will be burned up. Okay, this does not have a parallel in synchronization yet with the first seal or the first vial. Not saying they don't happen at the same time, but just for now, easing things in. First trumpet, that's what it describes. The second trumpet does have a parallel with the second vial. Now, the second trumpet says that there will be a great burning mountain which will be cast into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. We can see already that the first and second trumpets are clearly describing a cosmic type of destruction, which is just like a bombardment of meteors or asteroids and whatnot, right? Burning up the grass. I mean, it's a totally natural type of event that's always taking place on this earth. It's not far-fetched to think it would happen. Great burning mountain cast into the sea, and 1/3 of the life in the sea became 1/3 of the sea became blood. That's quite clearly a very large meteor or something that crashes into the ocean. But that was the second trumpet. Now, the second vial says that the sea turns to blood and that life in the sea dies. So clearly we can see that the second vial is synchronized with the second trumpet. Because in this great final day, or final hour, however you want to define it, we have 7 trumpet events taking place, 7 seal events taking place, and 7 vial events taking place. It's not that there are 21 unique events. There's actually only 7 major events that are taking place. The trumpets are announcing something, the seals are an unveiling of something, and the vials are a pouring of wrath. There's 7 major events that are taking place here, just being told from these 3 different perspectives. Okay? So the third trumpet says that a great star will fall. So this is in line with the other meteor type events that have taken place in the first and second trumpet. Great star falls, burning, it falls on 1/3 of the rivers, etc., and poisons them. Okay? Do we see a parallel with the vials? Well, the third vial says that the rivers will be turned to blood. So we can see that the second trumpet is in line with the second vial. The third trumpet is in line with the third vial. Right? They're synchronized. They're talking about the same events. Okay? Now if we go to the fourth trumpet, it says that there will be a darkening. It says that 1/3 of the sun will be darkened, and 1/3 of the moon will be darkened, and 1/3 of the stars will be darkened. Now if we go over to the fourth vial, it says that the sun will scorch men with fire, but right after that in the fifth vial, it says that the sun is darkened. So we can see that again here, that the fourth trumpet is in line with the fifth vial. Okay? They don't match up 111, 222, 333, 444. They're all going in their natural own progression, but they're all occurring at the same day, at the same time. Okay, you follow me? But the 7 trumpets are announcing 7 things. The 7 seals are unveiling 7 things, and the vials are 7 punishments, but they're all taking place on one day. So of course they're going to describe the same events. Okay? Now, the 5th trumpet, it says that another star falls, it hits the earth, opens up a chasm, all this smoke and everything is released, and dust and whatever. It obscures the sun, there's further darkness, okay, and it says that monsters are released, and that the monsters are instructed to wait until the chosen are sealed with the seal of God, and not to touch them until that is done, okay? Now, this is taking, the 5th trumpet is still taking place in the time of darkness, so that's still in parallel with the 5th vial. So 2nd trumpet lines up with 2nd vial. 3rd trumpet lines up with 3rd vial. 5th trumpet lines up with 5th vial. Okay? Now, the sixth trumpet, it says that the fallen angels will emerge from their imprisoned area near the river Euphrates, and they'll go on to kill 1/3 of all humans. And this is Revelation 9:15, where it says that they've been made ready for the hour to do this, the specific hour of the day, week, month, and year. So this hour has been calculated, okay? And this is the hour in which all these events are taking place. So when the fifth trumpet takes place, that is in line with the fifth vial, where it says that the sun is darkened. And the sixth trumpet, the fallen angels emerge from the Euphrates. Well, guess what? In the sixth vial, it says that the Euphrates River will be dried up to make way for the kings from the east. This is obviously a cryptic reference to the fallen angel chiefs who will be emerging from there. So you can see all these trumpets and vials line up perfectly so far, as well, as they have done. The most striking, now the sixth seal. Okay, the seals are a bit more complicated, but I will explain them. In the sixth seal, we can see that it lines up with the sixth trumpet and the sixth vial. The sixth seal says that stars will be falling, that mountains and islands will be moved from their places, there will be a great earthquake, and it says that the sun will be darkened and the moon will be red. So clearly, the time of the sixth seal is talking about when the sun will be darkened and the earth will be in darkness. It's clearly the same time as the fifth vial and the fourth, fifth, and sixth trumpet. Okay, clearly the same period. Now, the striking thing is that the seventh trumpet, seventh seal, and seventh vial meticulously detail the exact same event using like 5 key words. Now follow me here. The seventh trumpet, which takes place, I believe it's Revelation 11:15, right after the resurrection is noted, or during the resurrection, when everybody's rising up, it says that there will be lightnings, voices, thunders, an earthquake, and great hail. 5 key things. Now, if we look at the description of the seventh seal, it says there will be lightnings, voices, thunders, earthquake, and fire cast from the heavens to the earth. The exact same thing. Now, we look at the seventh vial, it says there will be lightnings, voices, thunders, earthquake, great hail. And then adds on, and Babylon will fall. So the seventh trumpet, seal, and vial, without a doubt, are describing the same one event. Okay? So they all culminate, the seventh trumpet, seal, and vial, they all culminate at the same one event. Okay? Safe to say that they probably all start, or, they probably all start around the same time, since we've seen from all the verses that all these things will be taking place in one day, if not in 1 hour in particular. So, the only one that I didn't read out yet, out of the vials, was the first vial, which is a plague on those with the mark of the beast. Okay? This doesn't have a descriptive parallel with the trumpets or the seals, but that's of no matter. But it just simply logically occurs before the second vial. We know that the second vial is in line with the second trumpet, where the seas turn to blood. So obviously, the plague on those with the mark of the beast occurs before the second trumpet. What comes before the second trumpet? Well, the first trumpet. So by logic, the first trumpet must occur at the same time period as the first vial. So in essence, what we have is first trumpet lines up with first vial. Second trumpet lines up with second vial. Third trumpet lines up with third vial. The fourth vial is kind of an anomaly, but it doesn't contradict anything. But who said they all have to perfectly line up at each interval anyways, right? But the fourth vial is the anomaly. But the fourth, fifth, and sixth trumpet talk about the darkness and various other things, which parallels the fifth vial, the sixth vial, and the sixth seal. So this is where we see all the connections, okay, and then all 3 of the seventh line up. That's an astounding connection. I haven't heard any other Christian ever point this out. This is inarguable. This is definitely, like, matter of fact, factual, right? That's what it is. Now, what about the first 5 seals? Okay, well, the first 5 seals, I believe, logically, they have to, because otherwise the Bible just contradicts itself. They have to occur in rapid succession, like rapid fire, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to, because the sixth seal, where the stars fall, the mountains move, we know from Jesus' own quote to his disciples, and they asked him, what is the sign that you have arrived? He said, when you see the stars falling from the sky. So if I'm not correct, then Jesus would have to be a liar. But Jesus isn't a liar, so I have to be correct. Okay? On that logical note. The sixth seal is marked by stars falling. We know that Jesus must be here by that point. Now, this makes sense because, according to what I believe, the first seal is actually the arrival of Jesus. Someone comes to conquer on a white horse. Jesus is described as coming to conquer on a white horse in Revelation 14 or 19, whichever chapter it is. It's inarguably talking about Jesus. Okay? Who are the other horses that accompany him? They are the rest of the four horsemen. Okay? So it's the white one, the red one that induces war, the black one that is in charge of the judgment and the sealing of the righteous and all of that there, and then death and Hades. Okay? The four horsemen classically have always been understood to come at the same, to arrive together. So that right there is one logical reason why the first four horsemen would all be released at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the seals would be unsealed 1, 2, 3, 4 in rapid succession because they all arrive together. Jesus says that he arrives with all the messengers, and he'll send his messengers out to the four corners of the heavens. Right? So there's a logical reason to believe that the first four seals fire off in rapid succession. The fifth seal, take a sip of my drink. The fifth seal is literally just a pause. That's all it is, if you read the text. So, Jesus has to arrive at the same time, or basically right when the stars are falling. He's not going to come after that. He's not going to come before that. He has to come pretty much right at that time. So in my opinion, when we read the description of the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth seal, there's no parallel with the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth trumpets or vials. Okay? So what that shows us logically is that the first, it does say stars fall. Well, I'm talking about the first five seals. In the first five seals, there are no parallels with the first five trumpets or vials. So that means, logically, the first five trumpets and vials, all those events pertaining and whichever other ones synchronized, they're all taking place before the immediate arrival of Jesus. When Jesus arrives, then we have that, it's going to be like lightning appearing from the east to the west and all that there, like the verse that I read. The stars will be falling at this point, and this marks Jesus' arrival. Now, what could also be argued is, because the sixth seal says stars falling, and Jesus says he'll arrive at that time, you could also argue that stars were falling from the first trumpet. Okay? Verbatim, the term star is used in the third trumpet. However, it's without a doubt describing the same thing, cosmic material crashing down to the earth. So one could argue fairly that from the first trumpet, before the first trumpet, Jesus would have to appear. And I kind of lean with that there. So what this, in effect, would show is that the first five seals are opened in rapid succession first. Okay? Now, support for this is that the third seal is the black horseman who goes around, and he's in charge of sealing the chosen. Now, the first vial, that would have to occur at the same time or just before the first vial, which is the plague that goes on those with the mark of the beast. You could only get the mark of the beast if that time of the discerning is happening, where you either have the seal of God or the mark of the beast. Okay? And then, when the third messenger, the third horseman, arrives, and his job is to go out and seal those with the seal of God, we can see that lines up. Okay? So that supports the fact that the first five seals must be opened up first, very, very quickly in rapid succession. That's the immediate arrival of Jesus with all the other whatever they are, the four horsemen, archangels, whatever they might be, and all the other hosts of the heaven, and he sends them out to the corners of the world to start sealing the people with the seal of God. And at the same time, those who have been sealed for the mark of the beast are being sealed with the mark for the beast. And then bam, that's when the first trumpet and the first vial hit. The first trumpet hits, and we have the stars falling down from the heavens, just like Jesus said would happen. We have the plague hitting those with the mark of the beast. Well, see, all of this makes perfect sense. Okay? And then we had the first five trumpets taking place. So the first six trumpets all take place, which include the first six vials all take place, which include the sixth seal. So that's how everything works. So you're going to have five seals open up, and then and trumpets and vials, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And when it's on the sixth trumpet, sixth seal, and sixth vial are all talking about the same thing. And then bam, when they get to the seventh of each, it's all talking about the same one thing. So that's going to be the order of events. But according to what is said in Revelation 18, like I already read out, we can go read it again. Revelation 18 is where it specifically says it all takes place in one day, and in fact in 1 hour. But I also read all those other verses from Jesus where it talks about 1 hour. So we see confirmation here. It's taking place in one day, and most of, if not all, these events are taking place in 1 hour. Okay? Now, we don't need to fuss over who the great city is. It could be Israel itself. I mean, there's actually good reason to think it actually could be Israel. Israel was called Babylon in code, and the harlot city and all this and that there. So was Tyre. It's called Babylon cryptically, but it's called the Mystery Babylon. We don't need to fuss over who the city is. We may never know until the end day arrives anyways, but that's not important. It's nowhere near as important as other things, right? But in Revelation 18, in verse 2, it says, "And he did cry in might a great voice, saying, Fall, fall to Babylon the Great." This is actually after the seventh vial has been poured. So Babylon falls at the end of all these things. So at the end of the day or at the end of the hour, however it should be termed, Babylon falling is the final thing, essentially, the last domino. Now, a lot of Christians have read Revelation, excuse me, a lot of Christians have read Revelation 18 here, verse 4, where it says, "And I heard another voice out of the heavens saying, Come forth out of her, my people, that ye may not partake with her sins, ye may not receive of her plagues." And Christian churches have always taught that this means that the rapture is going to take place to save the Christians from any of the, dark and spooky times that are going to happen. But the only problem is that that little rapture that's mentioned actually takes place at the very, very end, when Babylon's falling, because that's what it openly says right there. So there's not going to be a little rapture ahead of time to get people out of there. I mean, I personally believe possibly God might rescue the disabled, the elderly, the children, this and that, people of severe need. They might be rescued out first. But I mean, look, if everything's taking place in one day or even in 1 hour, is there any point fussing over who gets taken out first? The fact of the matter is it's all going to take place in one day, if not 1 hour. Right? So even though it says in verse 4, "Come out of her, my people," and all that there, listen to what it says here. In verse 8, it says, "Because of this in one day shall come her plagues, death and sorrow." So all her plagues, which are the 7 vials, because they are described as plagues. Okay? I had that verse here. I'll have to read it after if I remember. Okay? "In one day shall come all her plagues, death and sorrow and famine. In fire she shall be utterly burned, because strong is the Lord God who is judging her." Now, in verse 10 is where it says, "Because in 1 hour did come thy judgment." And there's like 4 mentions of these. I already read them, right? If I could find some more. In verse 16, "Because in 1 hour so much riches were made waste." And where's the other one? You get the point. There's like 3 or 4 that I already read. So, Babylon's going to fall in 1 hour. Now follow. If the fall of Babylon is the final event, and it says that all of her plagues will come out in one day, in 1 hour, that shows you that all the vials go down in one day, if not in one particular hour. So if the first plague, which is the plague on those with the mark of the beast, which occurs at the same time as the first trumpet, that shows you, end of the line, it shows you that all the 7 trumpets and the 7 vials are taking place in 1 hour. The only thing that's taking place outside of that hour period are the first 5 seals. But they logically happen in rapid succession, because Jesus said, "The sign that I am here is that you'll see the stars falling." That's the first trumpet. Okay? Now, the plague does not kill everybody with the mark of the beast, because Revelation 9 says that the fallen angels who emerge are prescribed to kill 1/3 of mankind. It says that death and Hades go out and kill 1/4 of mankind. That's 57% of people right there who die from those 2 disaster types alone, not to mention those who die from hunger, thirst, fear, disease, lack of medication, shock, all sorts of other things, crime. All these other things will be killing people in the end days. The plague is not going to wipe out everybody it touches immediately. The plague is going to spread naturally. I think the plague probably comes from the cosmic inundation of these meteors or whatever it is, and it probably brings some type of organic, viral, or bacterial material that's been up there in space on a meteor somewhere, and it comes down into the earth, right? And it's going to gradually spread from people as such plagues do. It's not going to magically be like a magic button and go bam, then everybody who's not with God is suddenly has the plague. It's not going to work like that. Because if it did work like that, then all of those who don't have the seal of God would just, they would all die from that. But we're told that 57% alone die from the fallen angels and from death in Hades, that messenger. Not to mention all these other things that people are going to be dying from. So we're not going to have any time to prepare. Just like Jesus said, it's going to be like lightning from the east to the west. So he gave a lot of cryptic clues. He said it's going to take place in an hour. It'll be light from the east to the west. Maybe it will come. Maybe his arrival will be in the east and from the east, like lore has said for thousands of years. But it's going to be very, very sudden. There's many other verses. I've already forgotten that other one I was going to read. But there's many other verses in the New Testament where it says it'll be like the days of Noah. People will say peace and charity, and then there'll be sudden destruction. You are not going to have 7 years of tribulation that is due to a misinterpretation. I can't think of the word anymore. Misinterpretation of the Bible. There is no mention of a 7-year tribulation anywhere in the Bible. Any scholar will tell you that. That's a simple fact. Any Christian church out there teaching that there is, they don't know what they're talking about. The Bible literally doesn't even teach that there's a 7-year tribulation. It's all derived from a misunderstanding of Daniel 9, because they had bad maths, they can't account for 1 week out of the 70-week prophecy. So they just say that, instead of that 1 week taking place back in the time of Jesus, it must magically be separated and thrown at the end of time, and suddenly we have reason to believe that the 7 years at the end of time will have to be a time of tribulation. It's all this hoopla that they make up, and none of it's biblical. There's not a 7-year tribulation. Jesus said very, very clearly, you're going to have all this time go by, Messiah's not going to arrive, there'll be wars, earthquakes, diseases, pestilences, everything. You're going to have essentially Islam conquering, you're going to have the Dome of the Rock built on the Temple Mount, they're going to conquer Israel, enslave everybody, all this stuff is going to take place, and he says, but the end is not yet. That is what Jesus says in Matthew 24, and in Luke, and in John, and all the Gospels. He makes it very, very clear. And he says, immediately after the days of those tribulations, he says. So Jesus terms those 1,000 to 2,000 years of tribulation as the tribulations. He is not talking about 7 years at the end of days. So anybody who's sitting there watching for the Antichrist to show up, you already missed him. It was the founding prophet of Islam. He was the Antichrist. He was the false prophet. Okay? If you're waiting for the beast kingdom to show up, you're already too late. It was Islam. It lost its empire in 1948. And the rebirth of Israel happened, marking the final generation in 2023, right? But they would mingle with the rest of the peoples, like Daniel's prophecy of the statue said, be mingled in with the toes until the final days. Daniel said all the beast kingdoms, when they lose their empire and throne, they'll still exist and persist for a season and a time until the end of the days. Okay, until the Son of Man comes down, punishes all, judges all, and all that happens. So we're looking at a utter, everything's perfectly in line for this to happen soon, and people are going to be caught unawares, just like Jesus said. Jesus said in Revelation 3, if you're not watching, if you have no clue of the year at least the year that's going to take place in, if you have no clue at all, and you think in your heart, oh, my Lord does delay to come. He has a verse like that. I don't have it open here. And you're going off and sinning because you just think Jesus isn't arriving anytime soon. You're going to essentially be cast off when he arrives and catches you by surprise. And I had another video on this, so I'm not going to repeat it again and waste time opening up the verse. But Jesus openly says that you have to know when he's going to arrive, because if you don't, you'll be caught unawares. Okay? Nobody will know the hour, and that's how everybody will be caught by surprise. But we know it's got to be in 2023. It could be at the start, it could be at the end, it could be at the middle, it could be anywhere. But it's going to be in 2023, and we have to watch because our redemption is drawing nigh. That's the thing. And when it does happen, it's all going to happen very, very suddenly. If you actually try to picture what will occur based on what we've been told here in the 7 trumpet seals and vials, it's going to be a cosmic destruction. Marked from the first trumpet with, meteors and all that hitting the earth, cosmic fire coming down. From the first trumpet, all within that 1 hour, you're going to have an onslaught of fire and meteors coming down from outer space upon the earth, poisoning the waters, killing the things on the land and in the water. It's going to hit the ground so hard it's going to crack open the ground, and all those things that lived in the inner earth regions will be let out. All the Nephilim, probably the Bigfoot types, all these other mythical, legendary monsters and all that have been, that live underground or that got driven underground. They're all going to come out and wreak havoc on the earth. And this is going to be taking place during the time that people are going to be sealed for either God or Satan. Okay, because it is the hour of judgment. And it is the hour of judgment. Okay, and when all of that sealing has been done, you're either sealed for Satan or sealed for God. When all that has been done, and however the judgment takes place, maybe we're all lined up before a throne as well, whatever, but when all that's done and it's culminated and finished, that's when you have the seventh trumpet, seventh seal, seventh vial, where they all three say there will be heard voices and thunders, there'll be an earthquake, there'll be lightnings, there'll be great hail, and fire cast to the earth. And then the culmination of it all, Babylon will fall. And that'll be the end of it. Now, we also know from a New Testament verse, it says, when with the final trumpet, or the voice of the seventh messenger, Jesus arrives and the dead shall be raised. So we know that Jesus must arrive in proximity to the resurrection. Does that line up with what I presented here? Well, of course it does. If we go and look, where did I have that note here? Yeah, so the seventh trumpet is in Revelation 11, verse 15, and it's verbatim after or during the resurrection itself, where it says lightnings, voices, thunders, earthquake, and great hail. So we know that at this point here, Jesus has to be there. Does that line up with what I've been saying? Yes, because I said that Jesus and them must arrive in the first 5 seals in rapid succession before the first trumpet. This is all within 1 hour. So Jesus will arrive, and all within 1 hour, we have the trumpets, the vials all taking place. It's just a 1 hour period. So that's it. We're not going to have any time to prepare. And it's actually, in a way, it's actually nice that it takes place so dramatically quickly, because at least we're not going to be here, the chosen or the righteous, at least. We're not going to be stuck here during all these times of woe. Now, it does say in Revelation 9 that the wicked will be tormented for 5 months by the monsters and the fallen angels. This is because they have the seal of Satan. The ones who have the seal of God will be lifted off the earth in the rapture, like it says in Revelation 11. Okay? So hopefully I'm included, we'll be redeemed off the earth, but the wicked will be stuck here for 5 months in an essential hell on earth scenario. They won't be able to die. They'll be tormented for 5 months. And after this, they will then be tossed into the Hades or into the abyss itself, and to each their own. So that is the actual order of events. That is what, in an illustrated fashion, what's going to take place. Essentially, everything is just a cosmic bombardment of meteors from first trumpet to final trumpet, right? It's a cosmic bombardment of meteors. That's what it's going to be. So if this type of thing was to take place in real life, we would have a heads up. Even if NASA and world astronomy wanted to keep it secret to avoid world panic, there are enough amateur astronomers where word would get out that there's a huge cosmic field of debris or objects that are heading towards the Earth on a destined path to hit the Earth. We probably would be able to get a reasonable forewarning of it, because even though these objects typically fly like 10 to 20 miles per second, which is extremely fast, that still would give us enough time, maybe a few hours or a few days perhaps, depending on who could catch it early enough. So it is possible we could actually get a little bit of heads up warning from people who would actually be seeing it. And if it was really going to take place, we would have to have a little window. It could just be that perhaps nobody's looking in that direction, nobody would see it. But I would think with this world of amateur astronomers and legitimate, science and astronomy, conspiracy or no conspiracy, somebody is going to see this if it is really taking place. And we would, at least from one individual, get a forewarning that, hey, there's a huge field of meteors, or whatever it might be, heading towards the Earth, right towards us. So, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very intimidating as well. But it makes perfect sense when the New Testament and the Old say that we'll be taken to a new world, to a new earth. We have citizenship in the heavens. We'll be united and made one with the family in the heavens. So the family on the earth will be unified with the family in the heavens. There's mansions in the heavens prepared for us. all these things. We have a home in the heavens, and this is what's going to happen because this world was destined to have this cosmic destruction, like always happens on this earth. Like every 50 million years or so, there's a huge cosmic destruction, just like this, and it wipes out most of the life on earth. So God basically looked at his cosmic calendar, saw that yes, earth is due for this. Let me make this a poignant time to do the judgment day. Everybody who's alive on the earth who's good, I will redeem from the earth. Everybody who's bad will be cursed to get stuck here. Natural order, natural selection. Okay? I think that's a very down to earth perspective on the big, imposing book of Revelation. I mean, that literally is all it's describing is a cosmic bombardment. It's literally all it is. And the good will be rescued from it. And who will rescue us? The angels. It doesn't say Jesus will come to each Christian. It says the angels. So send his angels out. So when we see this happen, he'll arrive with his messengers, the host of the heavens in the sky. They'll arrive, they'll come down, and the angels will come to us. You'll have the black horsemen sealing the worthy, but the angels will come to us and take us up and away, if we're alive. If we're dead at that time, if we die in the end days from thirst, hunger, famine, if we fell off a cliff, whatever it might be, we had just died in those days, we will be resurrected and we'll ascend up with those who are ascending from the rapture. So that's it. Like I've said for many, many, many years, there is no get out of jail free card like a early leave rapture card that Christian churches are going to be getting. That's not the reality. We're all going to be here for this. Like I've always said, I just personally believe that if you're a little infant, if you're a disabled person, if you have mental disability or physical disability, maybe you're very elderly, you have Alzheimer's, you have all these people who or in hospital hooked up and you're paralyzed and all this. You have so many people who are in severe need, much more need than you and I, to be redeemed ahead of time. I would think that if there is going to be an early rapture, it's just people fit in that category. Okay? Not us saying selfishly, oh, we don't want to have to go through anything bad. Well, we're all going to be here for it, but it might only be an hour anyways. It's going to be utterly terrifying, but it's what we're going to go through. And one of my viewers said the other day that they had a prophetic dream. Based on what they told me, I feel it could be real. It probably is real. And one thing in particular that they mentioned during the rapture was that the earth felt like it was spinning. And he compared it to labyrinthitis. I've had labyrinthitis before. One time back in college, I had drunk so much alcohol in such a short time span that the dehydration effect that alcohol does was so severe because it was so concentrated in such a short time span. That's why I don't drink anymore, right? Because of this one event, that it dehydrated the water in my inner ear. So for 2 weeks, there's no moisture in my inner ear, so everything was just like a gyroscope. Like if I tried to lay down, the entire planet felt like it was churning. It made me want to vomit. And I couldn't do anything for 2 weeks. It was torture, right? That's essentially what labyrinthitis is like, where you have that extreme dizziness. But that would happen if the earth is getting struck by all sorts of meteors or a big giant one. At least it could pause the earth's rotation. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but just using logic. You got a big spinning lump of rock. You throw lots of pebbles at it and one big rock at it, however it goes, you could disrupt the movement. Even if you disrupt it for a tiny bit, it would feel like a giant churning. And I thought that was a very interesting aspect to that dream that person had. So, I mean, I've had my prophetic dreams since I was young. I don't want to go on too much longer. I don't want this video to be too long. But in my dream, the first event that takes place is a great fiery star. It comes crashing down to the earth. It hits the earth somewhere over the horizon. I can't see where it hits. But when it hits, the whole earth goes dark. Then we see the stars fighting each other. Some fall down to the earth, but they're fighting with like beams of light and this and that of different colors. And then during this, Nephilim giants and monsters appear and hunt us in the dark like animals. And we have to run and hide like we're mice. And it's terrifying. And a lot of people are being hustled down by the government into these underground secret bunkers and everything. And I've been down there countless times. There's like hotels, cities, shops, restaurants, everything. And a lot of people will be held down there for a period of time. And that lines up with Revelation 2, where it says the kings of the earth and everybody would be hiding in the dens of the mountains and the rocks and, from the face of the Lord. So it could be that if you're cursed by God, you could be stuck in those places for up to 5 months. That's what it could be. Now, anyways, folks, that's it. That's it for my video here. I don't want to go on any more and waste any more time, but God bless you all. This is what's going to happen. It's going to happen very, very quickly. We're not going to really have much warning. So that's why everybody needs to get right with God now, get right with yourself now, get right with everybody else now. Get it right. Get it right. Just like in Daniel 9, when God told Israel, you have 490 years to get it right, and if you don't, it's going to be your downfall. And with us, we have X number of days, years, whatever it might be that remains to the end. We have X amount of time to get it right, or we'll be cut off and full. So that's how it goes. I've lived in my dream being prey for these giant Nephilim and monsters and such. It's a terrifying thing. And I literally, in one of those dreams, went through what it would be like to not be able to escape via death. When the Nephilim creatures killed me, I automatically came back to life. So I theorized from that, and based on my other studies, that the Nephilim, because they are star beings who came down and interbred with people and put their star DNA into us, essentially, their DNA allows for rapid healing, and to some of them even shapeshifting, which is based upon the same principle of DNA rapidly rearranging and adapting extremely quickly. But if they bite us, it would transmit their DNA into us, kind of like the movie The Thing, essentially. It would just be a super evolved DNA. So if they bite or scratch you, just like werewolves or vampires did, all these other Nephilim creatures from lore, or the Hydra or the Gorgon, they just contact you in various different ways. And essentially, you become hybridized with them because their DNA works its way into you. Now, once that happens, you will then heal very, very quickly, so you won't be able to die. Even if it ripped your head off, something ripped your head off, your head would just grow back. You wouldn't stop dying. So each time I was killed in that dream, I died like 3 or 4 or 5 times. Each time I was, torn apart or this and that there, I would just come back and they would just hunt me down again. So this is what the cursed will be going through for 5 months, according to Revelation 9. And that's very, very terrifying. And during that period, in my dream, the earth was in darkness. So, and there was a moon and it was casting a weird color light. Red, I don't know, gold, I don't know. But it all lines up. So, and I'm not the only one who's had dreams like this. A lot of other people have had very, very similar dreams describing even the exact same things that are going to take place. So, these things are coming, people, and it's entirely realistic. Science found out they didn't know decades and decades ago. When I went back to school, they didn't teach us this because science didn't know. But they had since determined that like 95 to 98% of all species of life on this earth have actually been made extinct on numerous occasions. I was shocked. I thought it only happened once like that with the dinosaurs, and that probably only 2/3 of all life was wiped out, or just the dinosaurs were. But no, like 95+% of all life on earth has been wiped out on like I think 5 occasions. It's quite frightening. So those type of things happen naturally. It is not far-fetched to think that a biblical end days would occur on this earth. And again, like I always wrap up my videos with, why do you think all the UFOs have shown up here? They have not been hostile. They've been watching us like watchers, just like how the Bible says they do. Those to heaven, they watch over the earth. They're sent here to intercede and to watch over. So, you know what I mean? They came down in 1948 when Israel was reborn. Roswell, the exact same time period. That's when they started to be seen. Okay? And they're just watching. Why? Because they know it's the final generation. And at the end of the final generation, you're going to have that cosmic destruction. So they're already in place waiting to take us and rescue us and take us off to our home in the heavens, just like it says with Jesus. It says we'll be taken up into the clouds. It doesn't say we'll go through a spiritual portal. It says we'll be taken up into the clouds. And it says we'll be taken off to our mansions in the heavens. And the heavens are where the sun, moon, stars, and the constellations are. And where all the hosts of the heaven are that bow to God and worship God. So we're going to be rejoining our cosmic family. And that's quite amazing. So, anyways, folks, take care. That's it. And this video is still almost an hour. Oh well.